Well, the weather forecast says we're going to get some really cold weather in the next couple of days, and the colors are really starting to peak out. We probably should have good colors for another 2 weeks unless the rain really knocks the leaves off. But here's a couple more pictures for you to enjoy from around the mountain here on the top of Melrose Mountain in Tryon, North Carolina. This next section of scripture has always bothered me, and I don't know if I ever preached on it or not, but if I did, I'd have to title it something like Misguided Goodness, or perhaps Lack of Trust in God. And so let's take a look at chapter 19, verses 8 through 11. Misguided goodness or lack of trust in God. Now behold, I have 2 daughters who have not had relations with men. Please let me bring them out to you, and do to them whatever you like. Only do nothing to these men, inasmuch as they have come under the roof of shelter of my roof. But they said, Stand aside. Therefore they said, This one came as an alien, and already he is acting like a judge. Now we will treat you worse than them. So they pressed hard against Lot and came near to break the door. But the men reached out with their hands and brought Lot into the house with them and shut the door. They struck the men who were at the doorway of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they wearied themselves trying to find the doorway. I hope that you saw what I saw as I read through this, having reflected back on chapter 18, verses 20 and 21. God sent 2 angels down to check out Sodom and Gomorrah. Not for his benefit, he already knew, but for Lot and for Abraham, he wanted them to know what was going on. Number 1, how wicked Sodom and Gomorrah really was. Number 2, he verified that Lot was righteous. You see, he greeted these angels, gave them the kind of hospitality that they deserved. But much, much more than that, he warned them not to stay in the square. He knew how wicked the people were, and he knew that if he didn't warn them, that these would try to have relations with them out in the square. He stepped out of his own home, the comfort of his own place, shut the door behind him so that nobody could get in, and he told the people of Sodom how wicked they were. So did Lot, in his own attempt to be good and to be righteous, sacrifice his own family? Do we sometimes take the risk of doing the same thing? Do we try to be so good to others that we put our own family at risk? Well, I think it's something for all of us to reflect on and to think about. Nevertheless, we see here that the other truth about this passage of Scripture is that Lot didn't trust God enough to protect his family, his daughters, his wife, his soon-to-be son-in-laws. Because we find here very clearly that the angels acted on God's behalf. They dragged Lot back into the house. They blinded those outside that were so wicked so that they couldn't even find the doorway. And we know as we go on with this story that in the morning, Lot and his wife and his girls are able to safely leave Sodom and Gomorrah. Interesting section of Scripture. Troubles me that Lot would be so depraved himself that he would offer his daughters up to the men of the town. Certainly shows that Sodom and Gomorrah had some effect on his life. But he also was trying to be good to those that had come under his roof. He just didn't trust God like he should. And sometimes we just don't trust God like we should. And sometimes, without talking to him about our dilemmas and our problems, we rush ahead of him. We try to take things into our own hands. And sometimes our whole family suffers as a result. I think it would all be good for us to reflect on this. to think about how we need to trust God, to think about how important it is to talk to God, be sure we have a word from God before we take actions. We also ought to see the goodness of God and how he protected Lot in spite of himself. That's my thought for the day. God bless you and have a great day.